Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Monday Night Live here on itrwrestling.com or wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Kenny McIntosh, and I'm joined by the lovely, the talented, the vivacious Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com. Hi Sean, how are you?
I am good. I am not excited to travel, but I'm excited to see all you people.
Well, that's nice. I mean, although that's good news, we should give people, the bad news. Which we're breaking up, but we're still going to see all you kids together.
Yes.
Basically, Sean's got so much stuff on with traveling. I've got a bunch of stuff on because I'm supposed to be going on Twitch soon as well. So we figured rather than doing these sporadic episodes that we would need to do, that let's shelve it for now, and we can come back to it during the next pandemic and COVID 2022.
Based on the behavior of so many people, it's not going to be far off. But yeah, as Kenny mentioned, I've got stuff scheduled like in person live in Lexington, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Winston-Salem, Chicago, Vegas, Nashville. I'll be doing so much traveling. And when we film this is usually like my travel back home day. So yeah, it'll be kind of difficult. And plus the world's opening up. When we started this, neither of us had like been anywhere in 5 or 6 months. And it's like, will this ever change? I don't know. We all thought it'd be done by like July or August, and it's not. Let's start a podcast.
Mm-hmm. And to your credit, we were going to try and make it work, but we've just figured, for the content that we're both going to end up doing and our sanity, we should, have a nice chapter close. But yeah, it's been fun. Thank you for doing this for like almost a year. It is very
of course, and I'm sure we'll still do stuff together. I'll probably bug you for some help with some stuff, of course. I'm
and
always down to appear on ITR.
Exactly, and I'm at some stage, I'm sure I will come on and do predictions on Fightful at some point,
which I forgot to do last week because there were so few matches announced.
Listen, I'm glad you missed me for Hell in a Cell. Fuck's sake! I mean, I watched Hell in a Cell. I took a nap last night because I'd had like a pretty big kind of party weekend of drinking and stuff, and I was like dead. So I took like a tactical nap at 10 p.m. to wake up. Well, at first I was going to wake up at 11:45 because at midnight, which would be 7 p.m., the pay-per-view would be on. But no, they fucking put it back to 8 p.m. So it's 1 a.m.
I hate it. I don't know why they did that. That was so stupid. It's the worst.
So like nobody wants it. People want it to be at 7.
Yes.
They don't want it.
And they want it to be on Saturdays. Everybody wants these damn pay-per-views to be on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Just do it.
Just do it. So I took my tactical nap of 2 hours and woke up at like 12:55 a.m., came through the living room to watch the show with my other half, and we lasted until Alexa Bliss pinned Shayna Baszler, and I looked at her and I said, I'm going to bed. Like I'll watch the rest in the morning. And like it wasn't that it was like bad, it was just I honestly think that there was, if somebody didn't see Hell in a Cell, you did not miss one thing that you need to see.
Yep. It was just rematches. The only thing on the main show that was not a rematch was Alexa and Shayna, and buddy, you didn't need to see that.
I
thought Alexa's offense looked amazing, though. Like when she was throwing her kicks, her punches, all that stuff. Holy crap. It looked really great.
I've deliberately not looked at what you've said about this, if you have said it, because I just wanted to, for my own amusement, ask you on here. Talk me through your thoughts on the hypnosis.
I hate it. I loathe it. I know it's not meant for me. I know it's meant for little kids. I don't care. I'm not a little kid. I don't like it. And Denise brought up a great point. Why doesn't she just hypnotize her opponent into laying down and getting pinned?
Mm-hmm.
If it's that easy.
If it's that easy. It was, I will say, like, Pat McAfee, I kind of love him. Like, I do. Yeah. Like, Piss Missile, I mean.
It was great. It was great.
And, like, the fact that he has somehow permeated through to be able to, like, stand up at points.
Yeah. You
imagine if Byron Saxton stood up, Vince would just scream at him to sit down.
But I love it.
McAfee can get away with it. Hell in a Cell is in the bag. We're now 4 weeks away from, so we've only got 4 more Raws and 3 more SmackDowns. That's all we've got to get through.
Yes. And it every time I look, I'm like, oh, we're still a full month. We're still a full month. We're still a full month away. Fortunately, I mean, I'm so glad the AEW schedule is straightening up soon. Like, we got the Saturday Night Dynamite, which kind of feels like a pay-per-view this Saturday. And then it's Wednesdays. Thank God. I mean, I've liked having Wednesdays off. I'm not going to pretend I haven't enjoyed having Wednesday nights off. But I also don't like my Friday nights being spent at finishing up work at 1:15 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. I could be doing literally anything else. I'll get that little break until Rampage. But then, even then, Rampage is 1 hour, Dynamite's 2 hours. But we'll be back on Wednesdays, live, fans. From here on out, there are fans at AEW shows. Like, even if they're limited, there are fans there, and I'm excited for that.
I mean, two questions I had for you before we go into your stories, because you're the man to ask if we want some scoops. So they've just announced that the first Rampage show is going to be live in Pittsburgh on August 13th, and they're going to be doing. So I'm surprised. I didn't think that they were going to have, I didn't think it was going to be its own taping. So, like, I'm assuming they're not going to go live every Thursday or is that going to be the new schedule where maybe on a how's it going to work?
It's not going to be live every Friday. The plan is Rampage will be live on pay-per-view weeks. So it'll be live that week. That way they can do like a full weekend thing for people that are coming in for pay-per-views. But usually they're going to tape Rampage with Dynamite, from what I understand.
Ah, okay. And the other thing I was going to ask you was, I saw a report from Andrew Zarian of Matt Men Podcast, and he had said something very positive. So and I know you've seen it, but I wanted to read it to you, because you're usually the person who is the realistic guy who doesn't want to look, or who is realistic about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And he said that he had heard from WWE. Of course, I can't find it here because I'm looking for it. But he basically, the gist of what he said was, he had an update for WWE wrestling, and he said that there is going to be. Here we go. It says
exciting things coming up.
Yeah, exciting stuff on the WWE side of pro wrestling. Too early to post anything, but honestly, I'm very hopeful we will see a quality turnaround by the end of the year. I hate being vague. I generally don't post things like this, but I'm very hopeful.
He would know. He's very, very well connected. I've conferred with him on stories for years before he started breaking news on his own.
He did also, just to quickly, he responded to someone who'd asked, is this just Cena and Brock coming back? Because that's not really a long-term thing. And he said it's part of the plan, but Cena and Brock are not the only things they have coming up. WWE and their content partners know returning to a live audience is a huge opportunity to get the train back on the tracks.
Yes.
That feels like something to maybe get excited about.
Maybe, but I just don't trust WWE. So he heard a lot of the same things I heard about Brock. But since then, I've heard that from people close to Brock that it's like not as imminent as others think. So there's a lot of conflicting info on Brock. Obviously, they want Cena back. They want The Rock for later this year. Becky's coming back. Becky's training. She's doing that. But yes, there are, and I'll have some more on this week on Fightful Select, but they know it's an opportunity to hit the reset button, but it doesn't matter. If that one guy gets lazy and forgets that they've been doing rematches every single week, it does not matter. This is the opportunity. People in WWE have to push for this. They have to push really, really hard. But again, the themed shows we're going to talk about in a bit, that's a big part of that. They know, even these networks know that these shows are redundant. It's reflected in the numbers. There's a reason why on Wednesdays Unopposed, AEW is above what they were before the pandemic, and WWE is down significantly. That ain't a coincidence. Like, and people can say, oh, people are watching in different way. No, not since before the pandemic, they're not. And if so, it's not reflected on AEW Unopposed on Wednesdays. But those networks know, and I guess we can kind of lead into that. They are pitching all kinds of stuff like Raw Roulette and points standings, and which I think is a dog shit idea.
Let's just go into that now as your first story, the themed shows.
So yeah, they have pitched a lot of things like a Wrestling World Cup, which I think is cool. Sure, do it. And they have pitched that from one of the things that I had heard about, like, well, listen, if you want to do all the split brands and have a bunch of brands appear on one show or something like that, do it where it makes sense in a Wrestling World Cup sense. And I respect that the networks care more than WWE does. There are pitches for like NASCAR and NFL contingent stuff that sound like complete ass. They sound terrible. But I love the Raw Bowl on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1996, the Four Corners tag match with the football ring. I love that. But they have pitched like old school Raw, King of the Ring, Viewer's Choice. Those are easy themed things to make people think, you know what, maybe something will happen. Maybe it'll be good. It's just, even with those themed things,
something has to happen.
Something has to happen. You can't just have, okay, a couple people are going to win the 24/7 title, and there's going to be a bunch of people standing around and dancing with Crime Time, like they used to do all the time. It got to the point to where it was like, what will happen? And they've been inconsistent with that. You would have Crime Time dancing with people. You would have stuff like that. But then sometimes you'd have Jake the Snake Roberts come out, put a snake on Dean Ambrose, and the snake shits all over him. That's worth me watching. That's worth me watching.
You know, it's funny. I am just very quickly before we talk about it, I remember when I was working at What Culture, and we were doing WCPW, the wrestling promotion, and I remember being called into a meeting, and I would dread, because I made the mistake once of being called into a creative team meeting, and I had an idea, which was basically just because I wanted to get out of the room. So I was like, "What if you do this?" And then that got me on the creative team when I didn't want to be. So then I was just kind of at all these meetings, and I remember somebody was like, "Right, we're going to do a World Cup," and I was like, "What?" And they were, "We're going to do a Pro Wrestling World Cup," and I was like, "Right, but we can't have the best Swiss guy because he's in the." So we'll do the World Cup, but outside of WWE, and we had like Jim Ross come in to like announce it at a show and all this stuff. And like, you can Google it and you can see all the people. There was like loads of people who, you know, like Ricochet was in it because he was still a free agent. Rey Mysterio was in it from Mexico. But like the thing that drove me nuts was we were going to have to do international shows. So there was like travel to Canada to work at a Smash show where you're going to have to like travel on the day, do the show, and travel back the next day.
Jeez, I'm looking at this roster. My God.
Like the World Cup. I mean, it was... I left my last day. When did I quit? I quit right after the April 30th show, which was the Mexico leg held in Newcastle, England. So, but I left after that. But like, the idea of all those tours just drove me insane.
I see it: England, Scotland, Mexico, Canada, Germany, Japan, USA, and then the rest of the world leg. But the roster, holy cow!
Mm-hmm.
I just looked at that. Like, I was like, oh, you know what? I would just get a representative from all those areas and call it a day.
Yeah.
No, it's like Kyle O'Reilly, Moose, Nick Aldis, Penta,
that was the
Rey Mysterio, Ricochet.
That was like the toned down like they wanted to have more people, and it was like how. And I mean, but yeah, so PTSD just popped back there. But yeah, I mean, the theme shows are a good idea, but it does have to come down to changes. Like, I mean, when I was watching SmackDown on Friday and they were doing the Nakamura Corbin thing, which was fun enough, I guess, but like the crown looks so shit.
Yeah, it is.
Like, do you remember that Kurt Angle crown of 2000? I mean, that was beautiful. Yeah, and he had the big fucking robe. That's what you want. Anyway, but yeah, I guess we'll see if these theme shows can put a band-aid, as you guys call them, over the issue.
Yeah.
Moose's contract with Impact Wrestling.
So Dave Meltzer had reported last month that Moose had signed a new deal. He has. Now, I should clarify, there was a pay-per-view a while back where Don Callis had said, Moose, you got that new contract. He did not have a contract at that point, a new one. His contract was set to expire in June. And from what I understand, Impact was like, we would really, really like to negotiate with him and get him signed before he can sort of use other people against us, so to speak. And they offered him a really, really good deal, from what I understand, before he could hit the free agent market. But I did hear there was some outside interest. I'm working to nail down like some stuff on what companies I can put out there. But the deal is a 2-year deal. So he will be signed through June 2023. He's already set to continue with Impact Wrestling. He's going to wrestle Chris Sabin at Slammiversary. So yeah, Moose is a big one for them to retain too. And A lot of the personal stuff that he had battled, like the charges that he faced like a decade ago, it seems like companies were open to talk with him after that because he had sort of had a track record of fixing that behavior. You know what I mean? Like there hadn't been any more spots on his record since then. So I hope that's the case. And Moose is there for another couple of years.
I mean, it's a good for him to be the big fish in the small pond is a good spot for him. Like
he's gonna be champion one day. It's amazing he hasn't been somewhere besides the TNA champion. But
God, yeah. By the way, this is just a free plug. The fucking Jeff Jarrett podcast is so good.
Oh, it's amazing. I really love it. I'll tell you when it hit me that it was going to be really good. When they are talking about him not wanting to put over Scott Steiner, and I thought he was going to, be like, well, that's not exactly what happened. He goes, well, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. It's really good. I think all of Conrad's podcasts present a different thing. Like Tony's is more comedic now. Bruce's show is not what it used to be. But for Bischoff, like I learned about sponsorships and working out deals. For Jim Ross's, it's just unfiltered thoughts with like nothing. And then Jeff's is this unique like booker, promoter, businessman, wrestler. Like he has done everything. He's had a big hand in fight. There's so much stuff that he's got to lean into.
The only ones I've listened to so far and the thing that got me into, because the initial thing that put me off was 2.5 hours. Because, for us, like that's a day. But like to take out to listen to something. But then the thing that bit me was the creation of TNA.
Yep.
So I've listened to 2 parts. I'm now on the 3rd one. And like, I know that, if you took a shot every time Jeff Jarrett says the word granular, you would, have...
Or 100% Conrad. I'm deep into part 2 of TNA. And that's why I wanted to watch it or listen to it. But I watch it too when I had free shows. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
But I have wanted a TNA podcast for a long time. From 2005 to 2009, I was so disenfranchised with WWE and just so alienated from the product and did not like it. I thought it was bad and lazy, and I think it's even worse now. But I watched TNA every single week. I would cook my little brownies before the show, and I would sit down, I would eat a bunch of brownies and watch TNA wrestling, and I loved it. Even the bad stuff, I was like, you know what? Better than the alternative.
Yes, check it out. It's a good listen. Becky Lynch, she's the topic again.
Of course she is. I'm so happy. So PW Insider reported that she was at the Performance Center last week. I was able to nail it down. It was Thursday. She was in there doing some in-ring work. She took in some PC Live matches. Then she was backstage at SmackDown with Rue in hand. And everybody said that she looked jacked. They said she looked like not only had she not taken any time off, but she looked even better than what she did when she left, which is amazing. Good for her. Good. She was showing off her kid, very proud, obviously. She's backstage at Hell in a Cell. WWE had wanted her or hoped that she would come and do something at WrestleMania, like maybe an appearance or something. But I don't know why that didn't work. That's a story for her to tell, I would assume. But Becky Lynch is on her way back. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. And even if we didn't get her back on WWE programming, I just want her back on Twitter, Kenny.
I know she is so good on Twitter. Like I can't wait for the sass that she's going to bring. And I think the great thing about her coming back is because we're talking about, Lesnar and Cena, but like she's a full-time, game-changing person.
She's as big as any of those names now.
Mm-hmm.
I had written an article a while back that was like WWE's new era of part-time stars. And she was one of them. Like her and Edge and some other people. Like they have a new era of part-time stars. But more power to them. I'm not going to begrudge anybody for not doing the house show loop or something like that. Because more power to him. She's got other stuff to do. But I'm just so happy that Becky Lynch could be headed back.
Well, listen, for the last time for now, I can't get emotional. It is the questions that people ask. It's been, I will say this for the most part, the questions have been really good.
Yes.
Like, there has rarely been one where it's really dumb. There have been a couple, but there's not been a lot, which is a real testament to the people that are listening. So
usually people, if they got to go through trouble to do something, they won't send stupid shit. Like, I've noticed on Fightful Select, I don't get a lot of stupid questions. Like, we got thousands of subscribers. We've probably had 4,000 or 5,000 different people subscribe to that over the last few years. And I think we've had one person that I had to be like, you're an idiot. One out of 5,000. Give me that all day.
All day long. Well, listen, let's get into the questions. Luke wants to know, what is the lasting legacy of any of Triple H's? Oh yeah, sorry. I hadn't read it before, so I was about like, ugh. What he's asking is, what's the lasting legacy of the Triple H promo about his friend Mark that he did back in 2014?
So it's one of those things we can constantly refer to. I know that it was partially in character, but you can't tell me that that's not how so many of those people reflect viewership, because we heard Triple H say it on a shoot conference call a couple weeks ago. He said, watch it or don't. I'm sorry. I mean, like, when you are a public company, that's not what you want. You want, watch this show. You're ridiculous if you don't, because it's going to be an amazing show. And when we have sort of that self-parodying of saying, oh, well, me and my friend Mark, we'll stop watching. Okay, well, they did. And people say, oh, well, people ingest TV differently. No, they really don't. Not that differently. And I got people sending me graphs of, oh, but this many people cut the cord. Oh, well, that's cool, because Nielsen takes into consideration Hulu, Sling, and YouTube TV. And piracy, Kenny, this may come as a shock to you. Piracy existed in 2014. I was streaming a lot of UFC pay-per-views back then.
You know what? I watched more I watched more wrestling legally than I did 10 years ago. Like,
yes.
Because I think, like, when you're younger, you're like, oh, fuck it, I'll just, the odd thing.
Yes.
But now it's much easier. So.
And WWE's demographic has gotten older and thus more financially secure and responsible. The sad reality is WWE got grossly underpaid for the content that they produced for decades. They should have been paid more, but there was that stupid misconception that we know is false, that wrestling fans don't spend money. And we know they do, because we make money off of wrestling fans, and we're so glad that they do it. But when you sit there and you do that promo, and then you're saying something that is a less obnoxious version of that years later, but your viewership has dropped 67% via that metric, well, I think that's how you view things. And listen, people are going to say, well, everything's dropped. All right, well, I'm going to hit you with a fun fact. The week Triple H cut that promo, Kenny, their top competition was Impact Wrestling. And Impact Wrestling did, I think, 1.4 million viewers that week. A couple months ago, unopposed on a Wednesday, AEW Blood and Guts did 1.29 million. That's not a 67% drop. That is a negligible drop, to the point in which I would say, yeah, people are ingesting things differently 7 years later. So, yeah, I think when you look at the numbers, you look at the facts, you see that comment coming out on TV, it reflects a lot of the apathy within that company.
A blast from the past, a good friend of mine, Kez Evans, he asks, well, it's not a question, but he says, a fucking distraction schoolboy won the main event Hell in a Cell match. Find a question out of that.
Okay, so I love catch as catch can wrestling. That's how I came up. That's how I learned pro wrestling. It's how I learned MMA. It is basically submission wrestling with pin. It's submission wrestling with pins is what it is. Love it. It's the closest thing you can get to real pro wrestling. You know how many times I've seen a schoolboy pin anybody, not just anybody worth a shit, anybody at all. I've never seen it, Kenny. Never once. Now, ideally, you fold somebody up, you put all your weight up on their legs, that goes down their shoulders, they're down. Come on. They abuse it. They use it so much. Seth Rollins' schoolboy without the or his small package without the leg hooked earlier in the night looked way better. There are a million different pins you can do. Bobby Lashley was an NAIA champion wrestler. He knows pins. Don't give him that one.
Yeah, it was. I feel bad because I feel like Bobby Lashley and Drew do work well together. I've enjoyed their matches, but the surrounding factors
on the producer.
I mean, yeah, the finish was not good. Especially
and how many of those do we see that 24/7 stuff? To me, it's associated with that now.
Well, yeah, because
we've seen so many lazy 24/7 title pins where you see somebody very clearly not trying to kick out.
Yeah, it's like if I ran a wrestling company, there'd be numerous things. I'd be like, there can be one dive per show if you can find a good reason to do it. There can be one roll up a month if you can find a really good reason to do it. Like, these things are just so regular now that it's frustrating.
It's the thing from the Mickey Rourke movie, The Wrestler. Oh, you're working the arm tonight? We'll work the ankle. We'll work the leg. Just switch it up.
Andy Hughes, I guess, following on from Kez, Andy's asking, "What's next? Where's next for Drew? What's next for Drew?"
I think he'll be in Money in the Bank. I hope he loses it, though. I hope this leads to like Broken Dreams Drew McIntyre is what I hope that it leads to.
Ryan asks, why does Sean block people he doesn't have interactions with?
If I see them saying something absolutely terrible to me, about me, to somebody else, about somebody else, I will go ahead and preemptively block them. Twitter is designed to block people if you don't want to interact with them. And if you are a dickhead to me or to a wrestler and you tag them, I ain't doing that. If I see you shitting on somebody for their job or how they look or anything like that, I'm going to block you. I don't block people unless they are dicks. And I won't dunk on you on Twitter unless you are a dick. Otherwise, I'm going to be nice to you.
My favorite one that you do is when somebody like slags you off and then you screenshot their bio that they follow you.
Always.
It's my favorite thing.
I would say 80% of the time that happens. It's like, man, listen, you can follow the Fightful account. You don't got to see my tweets there.
Dakota Beauvais, 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 I think it's Beauvais. Anyway, Dakota asks, where does AEW and Impact go story-wise after firing Don Callis? Personally, I think Kenny loses the Impact title to Sammy at Slammiversary, then his AAA title to Andrade, and All Out his AEW title to Hangman. It's a lot of losses coming for Kenny, according to Dakota. What do you think?
I think Hangman's got to be the first one to beat him. I think it's got to be like, who can overcome this guy? And then Hangman does. And if I were AEW, I would probably be like, yeah, Moose seems like the kind of guy that should beat Omega if you had to have somebody. I would be surprised if Kenny does that. To me, if Impact can have Kenny as their champion, they just keep him as their champion as long as they can, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I would be amazed if they want to do Hangman Page beating Omega All Out, which seems to be the idea. Like, it would be madness to have him lose to anybody before that in a big way.
Yeah.
Although in saying that, like, I'm not saying they should do the same finish, but like with Jungle Boy and Omega, you remember that the night where Jericho won the belt earlier in the show?
Yeah.
And from Triple H, like I wouldn't mind him doing something like that with Jungle Boy, because he's so good. Like he's
great.
You know that way, like for me, when you're someone who covers wrestling, you watch it in a certain way. And Jungle Boy is one of those people that when I'm watching that match with him and Omega, I know that I will just actively turn into like a massive fan of like, please beat him. You know, like I'll get caught up in it. I can feel myself kind of, that's the way it's going to be, which is when wrestling's at its best. Corn Beef Sandwich, that is their name. Could Drew be Walter's next challenger?
That would be very cool. That would be incredible, but I think he would lose that too. But, I mean, hey, you know what? If you went to the Broken Dreams Drew, he wants to become a champion so bad but can't figure out how to do it. That defines him. I think that could be a good story, but I don't trust WWE to tell it.
And if you do go down that route, you could bring up and find a way to explain Walter being pinned by Drew at Survivor Series.
Yes, that would be that's a good story that I know they won't tell.
Riley wants to say, thanks for hooking me on the Bret Hart matches last week. I'm now watching some Terry Funk work. Question, if you were to trust one current day wrestler to carry you to a great match, who would you choose and why?
Riddle without a doubt. I just think he could have a good match with anybody right now. And if they couldn't, he would just beat the living shit out of him and make it look good.
My pick would be Sammy Guevara.
Okay.
Because I feel like I would not want to take any bumps, and he could just do all the bumps.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I would be Psycho Sid, even though I'm not. Like, that would be the dream. Just to take minimal bumps and just smash people. But yeah, Mike Carter wants to know, what is your favorite They Might Be Giants song?
Let me Google They Might Be Giants real quick.
Oh, I see. I thought this was specifically for you for a reason.
I've never heard of them. I don't know who the hell they are. But let's see. They Might Be Giants discography. Let's go down to the singles because that's probably all I've heard. Buddy, I don't know that I've ever heard a song from them. I'm sure I have. I just don't know. The Lion Sleeps Tonight. Is that them? I mean, did they do the Lion King gimmick? Is that them?
No, they didn't do the Lion King.
Okay, then
this is the most obscure question ever. Like, I mean, I wish we could come up with one for you, but
no, I don't have any damn clue. I've heard of them, but I just don't know who they are.
I mean, it seems like from looking at their discography that Birdhouse and Your Soul is the big one.
Okay,
but I'm sure we probably have heard it, but I can't picture it. Adam Pearson wants to know. He said, he first of all says, salutations to my favorite people in wrestling journalism.
He's wonderful. Love Adam Pearson.
He's so lovely. With the last pay-per-view, the Thunderdome era now in the rearview mirror, do you think WWE will make any dramatic changes to the product and stories? I mean, I guess we've answered that, but he asks, what do you want to see happen? And we know that you want to see things make sense, Sean. We know that. But give us a specific.
They're going to have to, and I'll tell you why. Because if they bring in Becky, Brock, Cena, Rock, any of these people, they're not going to have the ability to book them in matches every week, much less rematches in every single week. So there's going to have to be some sort of categorical shift in that regard. They don't have those part-timers to lean on right now. Goldberg still has a match on his contract this year. Like, he's not going to work. He's not going to do like Baron Corbin and Shinsuke, work in 5 matches in 6 weeks, same stuff. That's just not going to happen. So they won't have a choice but to change things if they get those people in.
And then Mark Egerton, I guess, following on, what is the point of watching WWE anymore? It's just so bad. Can you guys see any changes coming that can help? My only hope is that, from what you were saying earlier, is like, if the networks want stuff to happen, like, hopefully that pushes something through. I mean, because surely Vince doesn't want the show to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, you would think in his mind, warped as it must be, that he wants it to be good.
I think he legit forgets that he has done some of these matches so many times. I think he does. I mean, he's a 75, 76-year-old man. But what was the actual question? Sorry, I got on Vince.
What is the point of watching WWE anymore? It's just so bad. Can you see any changes coming that can help?
No, I don't trust in it. Can I see changes? I could see some happening next month. Sure. Do I trust that they'll do it? No. They lost the benefit of the doubt for me. And it used to be, you can just watch the pay-per-views and you'll be fine. But then last night, you did not need to watch that pay-per-view. It was all rematches.
The finish to Rhea Ripley and Charlotte
so I didn't mind that as much if they do like where they can't help but to fight each other all the time. But I'm talking like they need to be fighting each other backstage as the show comes on the air tonight. Next week, like, we need to be seeing like Sheamus versus Ricochet, and all of a sudden Rhea Ripley and Charlotte are brawling into the ring, and Sheamus and Ricochet got to split them up. Even they're like, holy shit, let's help take care of this. I want to see that. Like, they almost went there with Brock and Taker a few years ago, but I keep saying I want it to be Peter Griffin versus the Chicken. They see each other, they fight, and they do not stop. And it doesn't happen until they get into a match, and there has to be a winner. I think that's such a slam dunk easy story.
I said this to Sandra on Patreon yesterday, but I think something that they could do to kind of shock people into thinking that they're changing things is bring up the way. to a show, to Raw SmackDown, because I feel like Johnny Gargano is the kind of poster child of like, he'll never work in the current way they book things.
Sure.
So I think if they brought the way up as a group and really pushed them, I think whatever show they go on would be exponentially better by them being on it, because they are just one of the best acts in the company.
And what they should do is bring those goddamn tag team titles with them and then immediately unify them. I don't care that they just did them. I complained about that from the get-go because I was like, what teams are there? And then they've made even less teams since the title. I get so frustrated, Kenny. It's common sense shit. And this was, keep in mind, we're talking about Triple H saying stuff. On a media call a while back, he said, I'm not in the habit of wanting titles just to have them. Since then, they have started defending the Heritage Cup thing. They brought the $1 million belt back, and they started the NXT women's tag team titles. Oh, man.
Imagine how bad it would be if he was about just having random belts. We'd have a TV title, the European title would be back. Adam Pearson did have a follow-up question that I think is a good last one. It's not wrestling related, but he wants to know, who is our favorite Disney heel?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I've got two in my mind, and I can't quite pick. So I'm going to go one male, one female, just to be equal. Ursula from The Little Mermaid, is phenomenal, and then Jafar. Jafar's a dick.
That was one of mine. Jafar. I got to go with Sid from Toy Story as well. That was a good one for me.
Mm-hmm. Disney films are great. Disney Plus. I don't know if it's so good.
I got it. Yeah. I got it because they bundle it with ESPN and Hulu over here. So I got all those three, and my wife loves Disney Plus.
They are in the UK on, I think it's July 2nd. The Golden Girls is going to be on Disney Plus. You won't see me for dust. It's such a good show. It's so funny. Anyway, Sean, until we meet again on one of these podcasts here or over on Fightful for our predictions, tell everybody where they can go to keep up with all the scoops and the stuff that you have going on.
Well, if you guys came to love this show, I do a couple shows over on FightfulSelect.com that are sort of similar to this. I do a couple solo shows. I do the Backstage Report, where I talk about all the exclusive news that Fightful Select has broken over the past week. I do injury updates, contract updates. It's a quick 15, 20-minute listen. And then if you like submitting questions, every week I do a Q&A show. It's usually about 30 minutes to an hour, over 100 questions submitted. We keep it really, really newsworthy. That airs every Thursday, Friday-ish. That's on Fightful Select, in addition to all the great stuff we have over there. But that's the main thing. But it's been fun, Kenny.
It has. And if you want to keep hearing me podcast, I still podcast with Finn every Tuesday on What's Going Down. We review SmackDown and Raw for our sins. On a Wednesday, we do the Power Slam podcast, which is going to be going on Twitch soon. And then Patreon is where you can get me and Sandra. We do Retro ITR. We do Raw and SmackDown from 20 years ago. We do Inside the Ropes podcast, where we cover the week in wrestling. And we also do pay-per-view reviews over there as well. So patreon.com/Inside the Ropes. There's people know where to find us. People know the drill. But enjoy all of your travels. Do post online and give us pictures so we can keep up with it. And I can't wait to see who your most obscure interview is going to be from all of these trips.
I'm going to get some. I mean, when I go to WrestleCade in November, that's where that's where I'm getting like NWO Sting and people like that. Who, ironically, that was the most starstruck I was for an interview, because I was like, man, will he want to talk about pretending to be somebody else for most of his career? And he was great. He was wonderful.
I would mark it over NWO Sting.
I loved it. It was great. Scott Norton put him over repeatedly.
Scott Norton just looks like a nice big dad.
He is. Right? He was a great dude. I interviewed him right after. They were sitting right next to each other.
But yeah, follow us on Twitter and all of our exploits. We want to thank you all for joining us all these weeks, and hopefully there's not another pandemic coming. Bye, everybody.